Welcome to the February edition of the Babylon Green Party Gathering. As you can guess by the name, for those of you who haven't been here, we often do political stuff in terms of our featured speakers and performers, but every now and then we change it up because we like to keep the cultural in there. We do some music and we do some poetry. For those of you that are interested, next couple of months, next month we're getting back to our first 100 Days series. We're having Mac Bika from the Veterans for Peace speak about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the month after that, we are having Scott Carlin from Southampton University talk about how immediately we need to deal with global warming. And the month after that, which would be May, we're going to do a first 100 months review and see where we've gotten to in this presidency. But back to tonight. Tonight, as I mentioned, we have a poet, Amy King. Amy King's a very busy poet. She not only does writing and reading, she is one of those people who support the poetry community and help to keep the cogs of poetry moving. She is the moderator of the Buffalo University Poetics List, and she can correct me if I said it wrong. She runs the poetry section, I think, on Goodreads. She has an excellent website with tons of resources and more of her stuff at amyking.org. And I love this title. She was the 2007 Blogosphere Poet Laureate. So I'd like to introduce you all to Amy King, and she could present some of her work. Amy?
Thank you, Ian. First, let me thank Ian and Kimberly for inviting me out to read. Thank you to the Pisces Cafe for hosting us. And thank you all for coming out on this very cold evening. What is it, 25 degrees out now? I thought I'd start out with some more recent work, with the caveat that it's less cohesive than my last book. So if I start out confusing you, then kudos to me. And then I'll bring it back together a little bit with some work from the book, I'm the Man Who Loves You. Can everybody hear me okay? I hope the dishes are clanging on cue. I told the guy in the back. Turn it up? I can hear me, I just didn't know if everyone else can hear me. So last year I was in the hospital for a little while, and so I just thought, why not start it off on a morbid note? Some pink in your color. Did you know I'm in this hospital bed? I'm not. I'm in the same light you stand in. Much the same way I'm in the waist of your Carolina, watching from the screen across the bed, whose pulse is worn down with an IV to the head. We are all snowbirds atop the cherry blossoms of August. Springtime in Washington, D.C. passed too fast, nearly in the flash of Rose brushing her teeth over the bedpan. No adrenal gland has known such cortisol, such heartbreaking, I love you, oh my God. So many soldiers on the brink of their lives returning. Are we still talking about the same God? I can't imagine the heart anymore, now that it presses my ribs apart. A balloon of such gravity, I ache for stars in a jar. Wasps whose love reminds me of fireflies tonight. That's kind of for my roommate at the time, named Rose, who also was at like stage 3 of Alzheimer's, which was a little difficult to handle when all night long I'm awakened. But obviously it was worse for her because she'd awaken and be fearful. Anyway, follow the leader of my silken teeth. Suddenly, art is a hand planted from the wrist down into the earth's epidermis. Its fingers sign their names with wind in pyramid skins harboring our pupils. We think we know things. Animal shapes, the songs of undiscovered tribes, how to hold baby diamonds, scratch the fur off wide, read the delicate membranes of spirit guides, pilfer dreams' pockets. She didn't notice the tennis ball directly overhead, though. I also thought I saw the meadowland, clouds, a barn, the stratosphere, willow trees, and my mortgage in its yellow. Janet Cardiff walks the brain's halls, takes us on an urban safari, hopes losses piled on her glass-shaped bed. Her notes leave breadcrumbs for stigmata I pluck at. Ground emerges from my silken teeth. We rankle in the dunes and subject our thoughts to religion's aftermath. Dust becomes us, the hand that takes root, the horn-throated beetles, zip-tied crocs, and the apple-black herons. We think we know things, pilfer the lint of dreams, uproot every yellow, follow stigmata for dust. We have always been the first fruit and the first ones to rot. We are the ones that read the signs after we bury them. I should have told you who Janet Cardiff is. Do you guys know who she is? She's an artist who for galleries or museums or whatever, she creates these basically they're sort of like walking performances where she goes around and records with a dual microphone like things and takes you on like this sort of memory scape. And you don't ever meet her, but you go and you put on this thing and you walk through and you hear sounds that aren't there anymore, and you hear her talking about memories of her childhood. She makes you stop and do. Very fascinating. If you ever get I mean, she's really famous now, but if you ever get a chance to go through a Janet Cardiff walking tour, it's well worth it. It's well worth the art. Let's see. The destiny you choose is the one you live through. Back in this province, we've got restaurants, violins, land digs to deal with. We go right wing with equal rights only for property owners. Make a bid, build a private chain gang industry. Suck the tuna from their tides, rip the salmon apart midstream. Color their flesh pink. Turn what is not only corn into grazing land. Make cows eat maize. Cage chicken beaks. Sell onward masses. My intestines clang with confectionery histories that spill apart, muddying other shores. Such domestic matters couldn't be more replete with envy. Hold out for a house in the country, a 2-bedroom city retreat gone microbe, off the grid, post-lesbian wedding. Spin water but acknowledge. Scandals are only scandalous when we're invested in them. When the world melts its edges, we're eyes on an embroidered center. Give me meat, give me U.S. flesh on a stiff neck bone, sweep my sleepy glances to the side of the tracks. I am known for my peripheral marginalia, crucifixion complex, among other familial clutter. Roman Jacobson, you say? No. Victor Slavsky tearing the seams. Claude Cahoon pushing pamphlets amidst German soldiers that smile, tip their hats to the Jewess and her sister. They burn photographs of gravity and well-enforced plans. They turn products of suicide, marching battles into dresses, pass their lives in drag, away from habit, beloved intrepid rabbits. I'm not going to explain who all those people are. Let's see. I'll read Miracle on the Hudson. Those were from a manuscript that's going to come out called I Want to Make You Safe. And some of these are from a manuscript that's coming out sooner called Slaves to Do These Things. Miracle on the Hudson. Buried by midnight, I am a warm fly in amber. A reflection buzzes in my wings, ghosting this window square above the Atlantic, leading me down the lane by moonlight's hand, beneath the shadow's sun in black water, a darker planetary hug of crooked limb with hand. You have not listened to the tones of trees, our branches, our trunks, calm as axes, gathered roots beneath a sheer drop of 20 stars, at least. We flicker too, white skeletons modeled on the earth's black tar-blooded heart, her skinned bones that make circles of the universe. We go around in them, meeting ourselves behind our backs, knocking the bony knockers of spines. One side of my brain strikes the other. Language cheapens. We speak where all symbols want with power, such as a door which takes flowers to its lover, the other side, to no knock. We can't remind the lover to love any more than we can love ourselves without the lover. Does it remind you of the recent miracle on the Hudson? Only one person will answer me. Only one person dares. And maybe I'll read one more and give you some relief with my GF, Anna Bojicevic. Lydia Dimkovska has made a bomb of my eyes. Lydia Dimkovska has made a bomb of my eyes, pulled the pin, and women become the new ramparts from which we watch the old world spin into you-know-what gets them, the vacuum, the tweezers, the archway of Gotham that invites us to Slovenian cities, Serbian farms, Croatian seasides, all the way to a little boat that rides the moat of give me everything with nothing, the mouth that makes gestures, eyes that eat at digestive sounds, ears that send words for the censure of players exhibiting the Christian accent in beetle-winged chords, beyond which I swallow the air and am stuffed with American promise of a flat sky's mouth, opening and surrounding itself in one fat gulp. I sell thin vine snakes into my lover's arteries. Her knee cannot bear the pressure of how long I disappear in discussions at the disco, or saccharine flowers and the way her eyes gamble. I said to you beneath the glittery ball, watching her little legs twist, we all know the beyond words, before, within, but do words know us? Language speaks our very tender selves into birth, but do words look human as silhouettes and know their creators, their creatures, call us ships and light lanterns, bang crosses, call stars, or nail us to the bow and bow before us, and cry to wish to love and touch us, our blooded sticky brows? Do they chart their lives to tremble in the cracks of their own imperfect smiles? The prayers they bear, do they know the way we toy with their spinning topless heads? My insect flies at your insect with spindly legs whose sticks are chalk marks traced into the world with karate chops, dusty hairs that trace the outline of air in hopes of finding jaw skin, cheek corners, chiseled lips of what gets spoken, and kiss the crevice between insect mouth and mammal eye. No distance between countries, but the sky's mouth on repeat, enveloping mother and thumb at the heels of a baby thumb, the coos that sling past and sighs that melt into pleas of karaoke machines by instinctual women who tune their oxygen to revolving seats of stardom, the little sexy bleeding lambs. Bleating, not bleeding. Although bleeding would be fitting too. All right, I'll read this last short one, and then Anna will read for a few minutes, and then I'll come up again, I guess, if you aren't too scared off yet.
We're enjoying it.
Okay, good. I'm enjoying it, but, you know.
We're sitting
Some
wrapped.
people are fearful.
Who's looking fearful at our poetry reading?
I'm just wondering for Victor Slavsky.
Victor Slavsky, he was a Russian formalist who, do you know who he was, Anna? I don't want to mischaracterize him, so I'm afraid to say in front of her. Basically, he sort of broke, he wrote in prose, but he sort of broke narrative form. That's all I'll say. You can look him up, Google him. And Claude Cahoon was a woman who, that wasn't her real name. She lived with her girlfriend in Germany during the occupation, and they actually were taken in, and they both thought they were going to die, so they kept trying to commit suicide. I think 3 times. But they did these like photographs where they were just basically messing with gender and very on the edge stuff. And they also worked during the occupation before they got taken in to obviously disrupt the Germans. And they were Jewish too, which probably didn't help them. I think they were Jewish, yeah. Men by the lips of women. I'm in love with a man who doesn't love me with the pages of the book he sees from. He makes love through his syllabic ink, assaulted thunder, leaves me to my own delirium tremors. I gouge out his eyes, break the yolk across his shoulders, disembowel the nectar from his liver. His toxins become a cherry blossom wine. He sounds in the brain's eagled hollows of a soft guitar from a Spanish cafe among the mountain peaks in nightshade. He cannot hide, no matter how many goats he scares or biscuits he throws at the hunger. The mother of everyone calls him. His fright is an orb of hold me, I'm yours, crisp and curled with age's yellow and the godless sunburn you love across your nose. I am that love you light yourself with, and my gender is powerless in this. We are metered only by our own machines, while the book is a clock that forgets her mechanics. Her hands can count, but would rather wipe warm dew, the pall from your lips, and kiss the lids of your eyes from sleep. Here am I, is he, with yoke and shadow removed. She is, her in me, apart from you, man reading men by the lips of women. All right. I'll introduce GF Anna Božičević. Do you guys know what I mean by GF?
Girlfriend.
Yeah. Or P. That's another word, right? Partner. Anna Božičević hails from the other coast called Croatia. And she's got her first book coming out very soon. She's a wonderful poet. A really nice press just picked it up, finally. And she's agreed to give you all an intermission from my work with some of her lovely work, which is very different from mine. So please welcome Anna Božičević.
I'm so proud of Amy for saying my name right. Once she learned it, she really likes to say it now. Any chance she gets, she says Božičević. So I try to bring like the closest that I can get to political poetry. So this is, I think like the issue was that I wasn't in the US long enough to feel like I was able to write about Americans. The war in the Balkans happened, and so I didn't feel like I was adult enough to really process it. So I wanted to write political poems, but I was scared I somehow didn't earn it enough, and then finally I was like, I'll just do it. So this poem is kind of a response to hearing that Hillary was running. I didn't know what to think of it. And I don't know how much it has to do with Hillary, but you'll judge. God is president, she's the rose of the world. When it's that time of month, it's like falling backwards in time. God has abandoned her glass carriage, she is dead. And the edges of objects, wavy in the eye that's about to cry, a twitter running down the spine of, oh God, it can be, insert song of mourning. God and time, spine of the world, yawn, blah, blah, shma. What I meant to say is, it's hard to be a capitalist. If the world's time is God, and she's birds a twitter, then why must I go to work? The answer writes itself. Left to my own devices, I'd just sink into the soil. That is right, with dirt as my pillow. In the hole between twitters, there's random patches of mud sky, so humid. There are chairs growing in hell. There are chairs growing in hell, and people sit on them, my co-workers. It's like riding on toadstools, except you don't know it, or you kind of know it that time of month. That's when you feel the twitter, the muddy shiver. You dream of your uncle turning a lamp on a spit high on a green cliff with fog thickening around him. And then he's made to swallow keys and little hammers. You claw the red clay. Now wake. Show me the bouquet. No, don't show me the bouquet. Show me the bouquet. If you do, I won't tell on you to the rose of the world. She can make him hear you up there. Besides, it's not a cliff, it's a chair. And the rose is God. Got it? God it? This is where women should be president.
We got a new dog named Walty. His real name is Walt Whitman, because he's a little white Chihuahua with long hair with a white beard. He is Walt Whitman for sure, and he's the sweetest guy. He has the reason we weren't even going to get a dog. We just stopped at one of these places, and he's got the most optimistic personality. I mean, you can't wake up. You wake up in a bad mood, and you look at him all the time. Like, there's no negativity about this guy, and to be to let you know he's always affectionate, so he's always biting on you, but he knows if you say out too hard, he backs off and bites lightly. So he's very gentle and such a good soul. I think he might be Walt Whitman in body, reincarnated. So the point of that was that there is a what did you say?
Doggy drag.
A dog.
Whitman in doggy drag.
Oh yeah. And we kind of have to watch out from stepping on him. So he is under the soles of our boots. So I made a poem that was kind of about him, called "The Marble Faun," F-A-U-N. that Anna really likes because now she calls him the marble fawn. The marble fawn. A tiny face of genius and tolerance brands itself organic, abrupt vampire of himself, of health, stone circle of having risen. Why the natural inclination to pet, to be affection with a soul made of bone, on haunches among honeysuckle and little else to dine upon? I wasn't able to claim the backs of my legs, and for that crime was martyred for the modern day races. From these trials I learned to be true to many truths that hugged and lost and slew. Not what makes my liver stand on end, but how to shake fists against the falling of insects, of lambs, of castles, and the fruits of shadows that walk with us behind our backs, swampy little corners of decay united. From old Jewish towns we embrace the plotted demise and welcome a ghost in rebirth's tatters, being all that we know and the only face that matters. Except a child from the lawn who watches in stone. We become as veined as the earth's waiting meat, best for sculpting to crumble a rib-like dust, spelling death out, names that sun by the moon, softening to rise again. All right, here are a few. This will really, if you're not already a little like lost in the ether. These are the difference between the two manuscripts is one is more narrative and has you can hold on to some narrative threads. The other one has shorter lines and is a little more just languagey. So I'll read a few from the Slaves to Do These Things, the more languagey, weirdly not so narrative-y ones, and then I'll read a couple from the book, and then I'll let you off the hook. Cows. Her moon was a heavy teacup, lifted light at the rim by faint stars and milkweed to smell her hair with. The cows shock those of us closest in the dark. I take my flashlight, approach the pasture, and lay your beautiful face in darkness. Turning to me, turning to girls, we were sudden, innocent, and ready-made for how, because they were not. We switched the thrills of lace to powdered wine, put on my best-dressed mandible, and bit into the sink of his left cheek. Could I explain anything at all? By the rain of the night I fall. The Gospel of Progress. The Gospel of Progress, lifted and written so that we may eat and edify your soul. The sun lacks in each a jack-eyed ship under sand, a captain of carpenters, their sailors whose muscles began a cipher, the engineer's dream, and the ocean will give you away if you don't watch what mermaids and drunks tempt from things the sea throws up. With these long dreams of whistlers' coves and dead sailor puppets, taking the silver waves through the canyons of us, built on the backs of briny spines, we are the penalty, the forks and the knives in mausoleums of coffee dregs, Saint Apollonia on her sperm whale steed, flying along this, her soft, soft war, with no swan of fire, no baby satellite and crusts, just to rearrange your eyes, so you can at least see through patterns. That is our one of many promises. The Always Song. The month is April. Writing from an old house in front of a prairie and a forest whose name walks through tall brown grass, I could say much about the part of not knowing, its aisles of deliberate orchids, ceiling fans that charm in waves. But I am ravished. Never once did rows of light swoon this way. In pneumatic arcades I hallelujah, a metaphorical God, raining bits of paper turned to music and the orchestras, until I was of age, smothered by years of breaking loose, clouds of longing against every loyal thing, measuring my wildness by the sky I stood beside to this day. And one last one from Slaves to Do These Things. This coffin's bucket of soil. All around your face, eggs, buffed glass to the point of shine. Suspended with such wide gulf, spoked silence, we swim toward sharks together. We climb the organ's insides, like helmsmen dancing thunder, a tooth biting down the street that pierces the brain. The organ shudders her great lung, nestled in soft voice, digesting grief through the body's voids and wind. They tell me nothing's gone, that I can see the air that isn't skinning me. I can dive further without this coffin's bucket of soil and hold the finish before beginning. You want to hear I'm the Man Who Loves You? All right, I'll read the title poem, I'm the Man Who Loves You. Good request, Kimberly. I'm the man who loves you. The history of the scarf is in knots, and I don't know if that's a compliment or a fact-finding gesture, which is often mistaken for the moist point, where things turn damp and snowy and we get worked up over tiny cold mishaps, such as who jumped in front of our toy cars, racing through puddles, or why has the muffin meant for breakfast grown from stale into hard. I originally meant to throw that sentence away before retreating to my Guggenheim grotto on the planet Manhattan, but over the connection of orphans, my birthday hesitates. Some stars are just too large to orbit and prohibit from the subways of free speech. Just as it turns out, we inhabit an invalid country, one that once belonged to another people who never claimed to own it anyway. I named my dog for the future, except I couldn't remember what we'd all been calling her by then, and as such, the bias of time takes over our mental conditions. I began this day by celebrating the hour of my conception and a simultaneous abandonment of complete non-existence. I put on my long black dream and stepped into the world of women to live among my female brothers who know how to grow up on ink that occasionally vanishes and candles that eat at the wick. I understood then not to let the germs that occupy my body infiltrate my mind, because they are programmed to dislodge the thoughts that set me apart as a matter of defining my essence. That aspect of personhood that surpasses stuffing wads of cash into every pocket while pretending nothing's wrong here. I put myself into this box of unerased sentences. I live in a box that lives in a drawer with arrows pointing out the professor, then female, then southern parts of me on initial examination of a body accompanying biography. A series of transparent confessions turns most of my lovers off. So does this type of artificial language, though I adhere in something of a masculine vein that can be coaxed open, but is more often dilated, then narrowed into a permanent voice style. For example, I like tissue, Kleenex, less so bargain paper, even rougher are the paper towels that attempt the same job exactly, which varies in thickness and color depending on income and location. But maybe I should look at something that's not as much me as it gropes towards you. Your heart's been wounded before this time. A vice grip holds it in place, and no supersized machete will pry it loose to be used as the birdie in badminton on Sir Newton's back lawn, across which the Chinese woman collects cans all night, each night, overnight, in my neighborhood. I watch her distance from my third-floor window, since she's the closest I've ever come to understanding a human being in the measure of a scarf that shares its warmth to the degree of tight to loosely tied around her open neck, and also as a mask for her nose against eternal elements.